They say blood is thicker than water, but sometimes, it's poison. In my culture, family is everything. We protect our own, defend them at all costs, and stand shoulder to shoulder in the face of shame. But what happens when the very person you'd take a bullet for loads the gun? My name is Nia, a 33-year-old mother of two, living in the bustling heart of Nairobi. I have always believed in keeping my personal struggles within the family walls. But that belief was shattered the day my sister, Zuri, decided to take my deepest pain and serve it to the world like evening tea. That day didn't just change my marriage, it changed everything I knew about loyalty, love, and revenge. The week started quietly, but the quiet was the kind you feel before a storm. My marriage to Malik had been limping for months. He had grown distant, coming home late, avoiding conversations, spending more time glued to his phone than looking me in the eye. I suspected another woman, but without proof, I carried my suspicions like a heavy stone in my chest. I hadn't told anyone. Not my parents. Not my friends. Not even my sister. At least, I thought I hadn't. Zuri and I had been close since childhood. She was younger by 3 years, the free-spirited, glamorous one. Where I was careful and calculated, she was impulsive and daring. People called her the fire and me the calm. But deep inside, I knew Zuri had a streak of envy. I'd seen it in the way she looked at my house, my children, my stable life, things she didn't have. Still, I trusted her. That trust was about to be ripped apart in the most humiliating way imaginable. It was a Saturday morning when it happened. My aunt was hosting a small family brunch to celebrate her retirement. Everyone was there, uncles, cousins, in-laws, neighbors. The air was filled with the smell of fried mandazi and spiced tea, laughter echoing in the warm Nairobi sun. I was helping my aunt set the table when Zuri walked in, wearing a bright red dress and a smirk that made my stomach twist. She hugged me tightly, but it felt wrong. And then, without warning, she stood in the middle of the compound, raised her voice, and said, "So, since we're all here, I think it's time everyone knew Nia is getting a divorce." The chatter stopped. Cups froze midair. All eyes turned to me. My heart slammed against my ribs. It was like the ground had vanished beneath my feet. I opened my mouth to speak, but the whispers had already started. My uncle muttered something about what a shame, my aunt's eyes welled with pity, and a neighbor's gaze shifted from curiosity to judgment in a heartbeat. I felt naked. Exposed. Betrayed. The worst part? I hadn't even decided to file for divorce yet. Yes, Malik and I were on the brink, but I hadn't told a soul. And Zuri, how did she even know? I excused myself and locked myself in the guest bedroom, my hands shaking. Moments later, Zuri walked in, all smiles. "Why did you do that?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "Oh, come on, Nia," she shrugged. "It was going to come out anyway. Better to rip off the bandage." I stared at her, speechless. The arrogance in her tone made my blood boil. "This wasn't your news to tell." She laughed. "Please. You act like you're the first woman whose marriage didn't work out. Stop being so dramatic." That was the moment I knew Zuri hadn't done this out of care or even ignorance. She had done it to humiliate me. For the rest of the day, I was the subject of hushed conversations. Cousins avoided my gaze. My aunt kept patting my shoulder like I was a sick child. "And Zuri?" She floated around, laughing, charming, sipping juice like she hadn't just set fire to my reputation. By evening, I was boiling with rage, but also something else, resolve. If Zuri wanted to play this game, she had picked the wrong opponent. Because I knew her secret. It had started months earlier. One afternoon, I had gone to a small boutique to pick up a dress. As I browsed through the racks, I caught sight of a familiar figure near the fitting rooms, Zuri. She wasn't alone. She was with a man. Not just any man. He was married. His name was James, the husband of her close friend, Wanjiku. And from the way his hand rested on the small of Zuri's back, it was clear this wasn't an innocent shopping trip. I didn't confront her then. I told myself it wasn't my business. I even convinced myself that maybe I was mistaken. But a week later, I saw them again, this time in a cafe, their heads bent close, her hand on his thigh. I had taken pictures. Just in case. I had never planned to use them. Despite my disapproval, she was still my sister. But that day at my aunt's house, as I replayed her smug announcement, I realized something. Zuri wasn't just reckless, she was cruel. And sometimes, the only language cruel people understand is a taste of their own medicine. 2 days later, the opportunity came. It was at our cousin's baby shower. The room was filled with the same faces from my aunt's brunch, family, friends, neighbors. Zuri was there too, dressed to kill, sipping champagne and laughing like nothing had happened. I waited until the gifts were being opened, when the attention was high and conversations had lulled. Then I stood up, smiled sweetly, and said, "Since Zuri was so generous in sharing my personal life the other day, I think it's only fair I share something about hers." The room went silent. Zuri's smile faltered. "Did you all know," I continued, my voice steady, "that Zuri has been seeing James, Wanjiku's husband?" Gasps filled the room. Someone actually dropped a plate. Zuri's face drained of color. I pulled up my phone and held up the pictures, Zuri in the cafe, Zuri in the boutique, James's hand on her waist. Wanjiku, who was sitting just a few feet away, covered her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. The room erupted into chaos. Some shouted in disbelief, others stared at Zuri with open disgust. And in that moment, I saw fear in my sister's eyes for the first time. But here's the thing about revenge: once you serve it, you can't take it back. The fallout was immediate. Wanjiku stormed out, calling her family. James's reputation in the community took a hit. Zuri's phone started buzzing non-stop. And me? I sat there, sipping my juice, feeling the sweet burn of justice. But later that night, as I lay in bed, a strange heaviness settled in my chest. I had one, but at what cost? The days after the baby shower felt like watching a slow-motion car crash. News spread faster than wildfire. By Monday morning, half of our estate had heard about Zuri's affair. Wanjiku's family confronted James publicly at the gate of their compound, their voices so loud they drew a crowd. Zuri, the once adored social butterfly, suddenly became a shadow. Calls went unanswered, messages left unread. Even her closest friends began to distance themselves, afraid her scandal might taint their own reputations. And I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt unsettled. One afternoon, I ran into Mama at the market. She didn't smile. She didn't hug me. She simply said, "Nia, did you really have to do that to your own sister?" The words stung. I tried to defend myself. "Mama, she humiliated me first. She cut me off." "Yes. But you poured petrol on the fire. You think you're the only one hurting? Now she has enemies who will never forget what you did to her. And that man, do you know what his wife's family might do?" Sometimes, revenge is just another word for destruction. I stood there, holding a bag of tomatoes, feeling smaller than I had in years. Zuri eventually called me. I thought she would apologize, finally acknowledge the pain she caused me. But no. Her voice was cold, sharp. "You've ruined my life, Nia." I almost laughed. "You ruined mine first. You think people will forget this? You think I'll forget? Just wait. You've started a war you can't win." And then she hung up. 2 weeks later, the war began. A rumor started circulating about me. Someone claimed I had been cheating on Malik long before our marriage began to crumble. At first, I dismissed it as nonsense, until Malik's own cousin asked me about it, his eyes filled with suspicion. Zuri had planted the seed, and it was growing fast. The irony was brutal. Here I was, trying to regain my dignity after Malik's betrayal, and now people whispered that I was the unfaithful one. One night, as I sat in my bedroom scrolling through my phone, Malik walked in. His voice was tight. "Is it true?" My throat tightened. "Is what true?" "That you've been seeing someone else." Zuri told me herself. I felt like I'd been slapped. "Malik, you, of all people, you believe her? After everything?" He didn't answer. He just stared at me, the distance between us growing wider with each second. That night I couldn't sleep. My revenge had felt like justice, but it had unleashed something darker, a chain reaction of spite that neither of us could control. The lines between victim and villain had blurred. When I saw Zuri again, it wasn't at a family event. It was at the police station. James's wife had filed an assault report against her after a heated confrontation. Zuri's eyes met mine across the room, and for a moment, I saw the sister I used to know. The one I used to protect. The one who used to braid my hair before school. But that moment passed. She turned away. And I realized there was no going back. It was another month before our paths crossed again. The occasion was tragic, our father's sudden stroke. He was rushed to Nairobi Hospital, and the whole family gathered in the waiting area, united by fear. For the first time in weeks, Zuri and I stood in the same room, but we didn't speak. We sat on opposite ends, staring at the cold, white tiles, pretending the other didn't exist. Our father survived, but the doctor's words were clear: he needed peace and zero stress if he was to recover. And that's when Mama called us both into the hospital garden. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't have to. "You two are killing each other," she said quietly. "And if you keep going, you'll kill me and your father, too." Her voice broke. "Do you think I raised you to become enemies? To tear each other down until there's nothing left? You've both shamed this family. And for what? Pride?" I wanted to speak, to defend myself, but something in her eyes stopped me. It wasn't anger. It was disappointment. That night, lying in bed, I replayed the events in my mind. I saw Zuri's smirk at the brunch. I saw the pictures of her and James. I saw Malik's accusing eyes. And I saw myself, standing tall at the baby shower, delivering my revenge like it was justice, when in truth, it was just pain in a prettier dress. I had let her betrayal turn me into her mirror. A week later, I decided to break the cycle. I didn't expect reconciliation. I didn't even expect forgiveness. But I knew I had to stop adding fuel to the fire. I met Zuri at a small cafe on Gong Road. She arrived late, arms crossed, her face unreadable. "I'm not here to fight," I began. "I'm here to say, I'm done." She raised an eyebrow. "Done what? Ruining my life?" I swallowed. "Done trying to get even. We've both lost too much. And I don't want to lose any more." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she leaned back and looked away. "You think walking away makes you noble? Nia, you destroyed my reputation. And you destroyed mine first," I replied softly. "But we can keep doing this until one of us has nothing left, or we can stop. Your choice." She didn't answer, but her silence was different this time. Not the silence of defiance, but the silence of someone weighing their own reflection. When we parted, we didn't hug. We didn't smile. But something in the air felt lighter. 2 months later, Malik and I finalized our divorce quietly, with no announcements, no drama. Zuri and I remained distant, but the rumors about me faded, and she eventually found work in another city. We no longer spoke every day, but when our father had his follow-up checkup, we both showed up, standing side by side without bitterness. We weren't healed. But we had stopped bleeding on each other. I learned something in those months: revenge feels good for a moment, but it always leaves a deeper wound. My sister's betrayal cut me, but my retaliation cut us both. And while justice is important, it's dangerous when fueled by ego. In the end, family wars have no winners, only survivors. And surviving, I've learned, is sometimes the bravest choice.